What's up, everybody? Thank you once again for tuning into the Yokai Delinquents podcast. I am Sean, Bearded Capitalitin,
And I am Jerry Robotinku Smith.
and we have brought us a special guest for y'all. We brought us in Jordon. Jordon, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, like you said, my name's Jordan. For internet purposes, I go by a portion of Jordan on all my social media. I am just a super fan of Final Fantasy to just a ridiculous cosmic level. So that's probably what I'm going to be talking about non-fucking stop.
I am all in for that. I'm also a. I know we've talked about it a little bit on the old thing. I'm also a huge Final Fantasy fan. Jerry, you could just take a seat and listen
Enjoy
and
the ride.
listen and learn something, sir.
Hey, I definitely have some things
Hey.
that I'll be bringing up. So
I'll have you know, this man plays Final Fantasy 14. All right, he's in.
yeah, yeah, and it has all the games in it, kind of.
Look,
So
It's like a crash
by-
course for dummies.
yeah, right. By
Just be-
proxy,
just because you have a wind-up doll of Cecil following you around doesn't mean you know anything about his struggles, sir. All right, but
Big facts.
as is tradition on the show, when we have a guest, the guest picks first topic. So, Jordan, what do you want to talk about?
The hop in right where it's easy. Favorite, Sean, what's your favorite Final Fantasy character?
Character.
Like all across the entire brand.
Ooh, with 15 main titles, 16 now just announced, all these spin-offs.
man,
Yeah.
that sounded like a flex.
Good lord. Man, hard to nail down, but it's the easy choice. As with any list, it can change week to week. But
Sure.
I gotta go with probably my favorite character from my favorite Final Fantasy is Tara Bradford from Final Fantasy VI.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice. 6 is one of the few that I actually never beat. There's only 3 left on my list, and I never beat 6 despite it being like a huge fan favorite.
Well, it was good having you on, sir. You can see yourself out the door. Wow. I mean,
You go ahead, head on out.
To be fair, no, I get that. I own every mainline Final Fantasy and most of the spin-offs. I've never beaten some of the later ones, but yeah, 1 through 6. Actually, I'd say at least through the PS2 era, I've beaten every single one. But yeah, 6 as when I owned it, I'm an old man on Super Nintendo as part 3. Like I played part
Yeah.
4 first, of course. I actually didn't play part 1 until way later in life. But 4,
Yeah, a lot of people played them out of order for the US releases.
oh, of course.
Because they came out of order.
Oh, for sure. And like I don't know, my generation, like I was born in 1980, so like a lot of the early Nintendo RPGs over my head, didn't understand them. Just give me Mario Brothers. But by
Right.
by Super Nintendo, my brother got Final Fantasy 2/4 by Japanese numbering, and that opened my eyes. That just blew my world apart. And then 6 cemented me as a gamer, and it's my number one. Not just Final Fantasy, it's my number one game of all time. So
Wow.
circling back, yes, Tara Bradford from Final Fantasy VI. What about you, Jordan?
I always did like I said, I never beat 6, but I did play a fair amount of it.
Right.
It's still on my list to beat. But as far as characters in that game, I always liked Kefka a lot. He's not my favorite, but he's definitely my favorite villain.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, Kefka.
Just
is
because
good.
he's the only villain that was actually about his action and actually did what he set out to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, like, I'm interrupted because we still haven't gotten to your favorite character yet, but you brought it up, so now this is what happens when we talk Final Fantasy.
Exactly.
Everyone has such a boner on all however you want to take that for Sephiroth. As like, in which I understand because 7 was a lot of people's first Final Fantasy, and I
He's
get
their
that.
flagship villain.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's not the best one.
He's not, and he's decent. I think the
Yeah.
concept more than his actual actions are good. Because if you really think about it, he didn't even show up to like what disc 2, disc 3.
Exactly. I was just about to say for as far as him being like the fandom villain,
Yeah.
he honestly didn't do much in the entire game, and he doesn't show up until the very end. Realistically,
Right, like a little manipulation that was already preset in the DNA was really all that was affecting it. But Kefka's about it. Kefka was he put himself in line with the Emperor as his jester slash, magician kind of guy, magic knowledge user, and he played low key until he saw his turn for spoilers.
He held his cards.
Yeah, he waited, and then he saw his opportunity. Motherfucker took it, and unlike almost any villain I can think of on the top of my head, especially in Final Fantasy, Kefka succeeded. For those who don't know, halfway through the game, and I'm sorry, this game came out in like 1994 or 5.
Spoiler alert is over for it.
So screw y'all for not playing it. Kefka wins halfway through the game, and you have to rebuild not only your, the world, but yourself. Some of these characters are psychologically damaged and changed in the world of ruin that Kefka did, and when he succeeded in conquering the world and reshaping it in his image. No, Sephiroth can't fucking say that. He was just shirtless in a fucking crystal in the middle of the earth. All right. Sorry, rant done.
Didn't even get to the promised land.
Nope, motherfucker, long hair, beautiful man. So who is your favorite Final Fantasy character?
So my favorite of all time, and it's gonna sound like I have daddy issues, but I swear I don't. I have a great issue with my father, or a great relationship with my father.
Great father issues.
Right.
But my favorite character across the entire board is Jecht from Final Fantasy X. I just like his redemption arc from going from this like drunkard who didn't give a damn to I'm gonna give the ultimate sacrifice just so that these people in this world that isn't even mine can have a modicum of peace.
Oh no, that's a very interesting choice actually, because and me being just as guilty, most people kind of automatically go to picking one of your party members, but yeah, no,
right.
Jecht, yeah, I'll give you that, because like I enjoyed 10. It's not, it's top 5, maybe top 10 in there for me, but yeah, because I still call him Titus. I'm trying to break that habit now that we got audio dialogue. His name is Titus.
Now that finally it's been worked out, right. It's hard.
I was talking with a buddy at work who's also a big Final Fantasy guy, and not calling Cecil is still like, this is decades of my habits. But Titus, I don't think he as a character really showed, like, because he did have the daddy issues, which was a big driving force into his character. I don't think it was executed very well, but you're absolutely right, though. If you pay attention to the story, Jecht had an amazing arc, and mainly because it's from the viewpoint.
I'm a sucker for a redemption arc.
Yeah, which is completely fair. But no, Jecht's a great pick. Jerry, in your you can't pick Sojobo.
Motherfucker! No, it's the Warrior of Light for Final Fantasy 14, obviously. Sojo Kurobos.
Not one. Final Fantasy 1. He was a fake Warrior of Light.
yeah. You're a pretender to the throne. Just because you have an amazing pompadour doesn't mean you're the hero of light.
I'm gonna shoot with like my first favorite character of the Final Fantasy franchise will be like the first one I ever played. I've never beaten a Final Fantasy game. Right, I'm sure you both know this at this point. But I'd have to be Squall. I don't know. I just really like the design. The game was pretty impressive for whenever it came out. Whenever I first watched it, I was just like kind of blown away, and just the creation of gunblades. Such a badass weapon.
Yeah. Now, don't get it wrong. Final Fantasy VIII, for those who don't know, Squall this is the main protagonist from Final Fantasy VIII. He's an emo kid, which really fits Jerry's youth, I'm sure. With your Jenko jeans and your raves and whatever else you children did at the time. No, Squall does get some hate, and I don't like the idea. Again, it's almost like with Titus and 10. Like, the concept's there for me, but like, I don't like heroes that are just really constantly whining about their position as hero. And that's
what they do.
That's kind of Squall's bag. Like, even like Cloud dropped a little for me. I like the cockier Cloud, which granted, when you reveal that you're not who you think you are, that could be traumatizing. I kind of get that. He got over it a bit quicker. But Squall's whatever. This whole time.
Even when Squall, quote unquote, made a turn for the better, he still was Squall at the end of the day.
But all that is superseded by the gunblade. That is an amazing weapon design, and of course, you can't hate the short bomber jacket. Like, his look was cool. His look was there. But I'll also say this. I'm gonna say it now, and this is probably gonna get some hate from some Final Fantasy people. Squall's a dumbass because he passed on Quistis. and went with
It's true.
Renoa.
You don't sleep on the teacher.
Man,
The teacher who's obviously hitting on you.
thirsty. She was so thirsty.
Rookie move.
Amateur hour, glasses, high hair, and a whip. Now maybe I'm getting too personal now, but Quistis was that's my girl for that game for sure. But no,
it does seem like they do that in a lot of Final Fantasy games, though. They'll like nail the character design, but like the personality will be like not there at all.
Right. But
I'm gonna date myself a little bit here, but Final Fantasy VIII was my first Final Fantasy I ever played, and was the reason I fell in love with the series at the crisp age of 4 years old.
Jesus Christ!
And did you beat it back in the day?
So funny enough, my mom didn't know anything about video games. She refused to buy me a memory card, so I did the classic keep your PS2 on at all times or you lose your progress.
Or
PlayStation 1, I mean.
Right. Wow,
I never made it past the first seed mission where you go to that town with the with the radar. Right. I never made it past that until I was probably 16 and tried it again.
Right, because that game, don't get it wrong, that opening, the opening of Final Fantasy VIII is probably the highlight. Like within I would say the first disc for me.
Yeah.
8, until 13, which is still on my bottom list, and that's the entire trilogy. 8 was at the bottom for me, just because I just don't. After the first disc, when we start really exploring what the story's about, with spoilers again for a game from 1999.
Yep, exactly.
When you start getting into parallel dimensions, time travel, and all this, it felt so unnecessary.
It's one of the few Final Fantasies that starts out incredible and then runs out of steam by the end. Where I feel like most of them follow the opposite. They're slow build, and then by the end, it's incredible.
Right. And 8, like, I beat it back on PS1. Just straight played it through. And by the end, I'm like, okay, we're time hopping. I've already long forgotten or cared what we're doing here. We're just going to kill this witch and get through it. But I recently played it through it again on the Switch. But admittedly...
When it remastered?
Yeah, because I've bought every Final Fantasy 17 times, because every time they re-release it in some format,
exactly.
I buy them. I've actually got on my Amazon wish list the Japanese physical copies, because I have to add it to the horde. I'm eventually have to pick those up.
I think Jerry told me something about that. I was like, oh yeah, we'll get along just fine.
Oh yeah, we can get into collection flexing here in a minute. But yeah, 8, like it's. I only played through it because I used all the built-in Switch cheats to speed it up, max out everything. I kind of wanted to see the story again, because I knew the grind, I knew the gameplay, the draw system, for better or worse. I never abused the draw system, but I still don't. I think it was an interesting idea that didn't really work out. For those who may not know, listening, instead of like just kind of learning magic as you level up or equipping an item, you literally stole magic from enemies, and you could just stack it up. And the way that can kind of make the game somewhat broken is that you can also attach those spells to your stats, because you don't level up traditionally in 8. So there's ways to really break the game, but it's also weird because the game also levels with you, so no amount of grinding really matters in 8.
In fact, it's actually better to not level up.
Yeah.
Because then the enemies just scale up with you. So what a lot of people will do is there's an ability that turns enemies to cards instead of killing them, which doesn't get you XP. So people will turn them into cards to stay at a low level as they progress through the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I was never that smart enough to do that when I beat it. So I grinded and leveled up, and I don't remember having too hard of a time, but I did manage to beat it without knowing any of the game breaking builds or anything like that. I just played it through. I'm pretty sure I had the strat guide, because I would usually buy the guides with the games just to have them. Then when I get stuck, look it up, because I didn't know what the fuck the internet was in 1999. I was way late to that game.
For sure. Yeah, Final Fantasy VIII is up there with like Final Fantasy II in terms of like interesting leveling mechanics that didn't work out because you can break them.
Dude, yeah. Now 2, that whole system of which is funny, is a predecessor to a lot of game builds, like Skyrim. Yeah, I was gonna say Skyrim. How the more you use something or the more damage you take, your stats build up. It's a very interesting concept that doesn't necessarily work in turn-based combat, I think.
Does not at all. In a game where you need to be able to heal and you have to grind by letting your like characters purposely take damage, it's just not a good look.
Yeah, the last time I played through it, which is I think I've beat it twice now, and every time with the blood sword because you got to cheat at that game by the end of it. Which I say cheat, but really it's just the last boss is super vulnerable to the blood sword. Like it's a sword you get maybe about halfway through the game, maybe a little later, and you put it on. Was it Fenrir? What's his? I can't. Ferris. I believe it's Ferris. The main.
Ferris is from. No. Ferris is from 4.
I'm getting confused.
No, 5. Sorry.
5.
You're thinking of Furion.
Furion. Thank you. Yeah, he was always my warrior because he's the first character. Kind of Final Fantasy 1 thing. You build it up that way. Yeah. Put the blood sword on him with already good sword build, and yeah, you're damaging the main boss for like damn near 9999 every time. It's a super way to cheat the game. But again, with like 8, with 2, I just played it straight. Their stats built as I naturally played through the game. I never just sat there beating myself up, but I would have builds in mind of who I want each character to be in the game, which it gives some variety that way. You know, you can really kind of customize your characters, but it's nowhere near as good as the later class systems, or like especially like with 5. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 5 had an incredible job system. That's by far the best part of the game because the story was kind of lacking. It was a very like stereotypical like fantasy story. Like let's just go get the evil wizard.
Which is where, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Incredible gameplay. Just the fact that you could like learn abilities from the job and then carry them over to another job.
Right, and I'll have to say this while I've tried sticking with the game, and I'm bringing this up so Jerry can talk too. With the job class system, as much as I like, Final Fantasy 14 does that very well. I dig it. I have my issues with the game, but I do like how they've incorporated and the switching of the class systems and stuff is very well done in 14, Jerry. What's you? I know you've tried several. What's your favorite job class that you've done in 14?
I mean, it was Paladin for the longest time. I don't know. It was the first game where I ever really tanked.
Right.
And you know, I started off as Dragoon, and then Steph started playing, so I wanted to start over on a class to level with her. And I started doing Gladiator, which later turns into to Paladin. And yeah, first time ever really getting into tanking, and I ended up really liking it. And then they released Gunbreaker when Shadowbringers came out, and yeah, it's like everything I've wanted in my Final Fantasy experience. I'm a tank, and I have a gunblade. Yes,
yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
It. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's always rough when Jerry and I play content together because we main the same class.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask what yours was. Is that your favorite, or just what you're doing now?
So I hate myself, so I did the strenuous task of max leveling all, like, what is it now, 15 classes in the game for combat. Yeah. I do love Gunbreaker, but I just love tanking in general. Okay. I literally I've gone through a very linear path of my main classes. I started with Paladin, and then I went to Dark Knight, and then I went to Warrior, and then I went to Gunbreaker, which are all 4 of the tank classes.
Right.
I've just mained I level all the classes and I'll play them, but I've always mained a tanking class in every expansion.
Oh wow, yeah. I've done a little bit of tanking in. I'm gonna say a curse word here with this conversation.
No.
The World of Warcraft, because that's my MMO.
Listen,
we'll get into this. We'll get into this. Hold on, hold on, sir. Let me finish, sir. But due to that being my introduction to MMOs, I started with a warrior, but I moved on to a hunter. So ranged DPS is my jam now. So in 14, getting back to the good stuff. Sorry, not talking about that guy hiding in the corner reminding y'all where you came from. I enjoyed Bard a lot in the Archer and Bard builds in Final Fantasy 14.
Very similar to Hunter, just without the pet.
Basically, because I did try. It's before Summoner. I forget what they called it in the game.
Arcanist.
There you go.
Arcanist. Yeah.
However you pronounce it. Yeah. Because I was like, okay, that's a mage caller, which is should be ranged. You know, the pet didn't really dig that one as much, but I enjoyed the Archer and then into the Bard build of it. I really dug it, and like. Of course, being the Final Fantasy fanboy that I am, I wanted to like 14 so much. I had my this may sound weird as someone who does like playing MMOs. I don't like playing with people very much, so, which really explains how I played Warcraft and Hunter a lot because you could solo that whole game, and especially now they really streamlined it. But what I did enjoy about 14 is the combat's more complex, the story and the graphic. Oh, first of all, the graphics are fucking gorgeous. That
For
is
an
a
MMO, they're
beautiful
crazy
game.
good.
Yes, a beautiful game with an interesting story. My biggest issue with it is two things. To go through the main story, you're forced into dungeons with groups, and it could be random people, and nothing will ruin anything than people. For me, it's like if I could guarantee to be on with Jerry and Stephanie, and I'm sure you, Jordan, now that I've met you, I would enjoy that game a lot
fine.
more. But like getting in with strangers, and don't get it wrong, I can ignore people a lot. It's not an issue, but I don't know. It's never been a fun part for me. I don't enjoy that aspect of it, but it didn't ruin the game. What honestly just kills me half the time were these solo instances that you have to do through the main story, where it's just like complete this task, regardless of what build you are, and you're by yourself. You can't group up. You can't get any help. And some of them were just like I throwing the keyboard across the room kind of levels of aggravation. And that might be, me just not being good at the game, and that's fair, but like those little things have just really kind of kept me from enjoying 14.
I actually, to kind of touch on that, I had a family friend of mine who actually introduced me to Final Fantasy 14 way back when. Because he's kind of like a hermit in life and in games, and I always thought it was really interesting how he loved Final Fantasy 11. He played it literally from the time it came out to when the last expansion came out, and they released 14. And I asked him, I was like, "It's weird that you of all people would play MMOs." And he's like, he said he didn't play it for the people. He played it because it was like a Final Fantasy game that doesn't end.
Right.
You just keep playing it at the end, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's me. Don't get it wrong though. Once I get to know people and like if you're a part of my guild or
right, when you build a community,
yeah, I'm down for that. I'm in WoW now with some friends, and we got a guild. We're trying to recruit, all that kind of good stuff. But like, it's just with my work schedule. I work in retail, so like my schedule sucks for any kind of free time. And like, Jerry was a big factor in getting me back onto 14 because I tried a little while back, and same kind of issues arose, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and be on with Jerry. And it just doesn't work out. So I'm playing by myself.
Lines up.
Yeah.
I usually like we'll come into this thing where like we'll be doing a raid or something like that, and there will be like one of the old bosses from that in it, and I'll just send him a screenshot. Like when we were doing, I think it was when we were doing the raid series from was it Heaven's Ward maybe?
I know
it was the one with the train in Kefka.
Oh, you're talking about that's in Stormblood. It's the Omega raids, which actually featured a lot of like Final Fantasy villains. Like they had X-Death in there from 5 too.
Yeah, he was sending me all that. Of course, he sends me 2 of the premier boss encounters from Part 6, which is just tugging at my heartstrings. I put the Phantom Train in our game of Pathfinder one time. I love 6 so much.
That's awesome.
I made them wash up on a shore after a shipwreck, not knowing they were dead, and all of a sudden they're on a beach with some railroad tracks and a train, and none of them picked up on it until they had the chance to suplex a train. I had to include that, and I'm such a fanboy for 6 especially. But it's a good game. I recommend it to anybody who's playing MMOs out there. Just because I don't stick with it, and who knows, I might jump back on it one of these days too. I own it on PC and PS4, so I have no excuse. I have ways to play. It's not an issue. But
if you're ever in my neck of the woods, we'll carry you. We'll get you to the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I restarted not too long ago. I'm still in the vanilla. Last I remembered, but it's a good game though. It's good for sure. I have little nitpicks, but like those other people won't have the same problems. And again, if y'all have heard about it or us talking about it, made you want to go play it, absolutely go play it. Because it's a damn good game.
If you are interested in playing it, they have a free trial right now. It takes you all the way to the first, or through the first expansion, free of charge. No sub, no game purchase. You can just grab it and go.
Oh, shit. Well, there you go.
It's a ton of content for literally no cost at all.
Right, very nice. So, I'll ask you this real quick. Obviously, unless if you think you can do your them in ranking them though in your own way, but what would say your top three Final Fantasies?
My top three. Well, so 10 is my top because it wasn't the first one I ever played, but it was the first one I really loved.
Right.
Mainly not because of the main character, because like you said, Tidus can be a little bit to jump on board with.
Right.
I actually love that game for all the supporting characters.
Oh,
Every
absolutely.
other character in that game that isn't him is a pure masterpiece.
Dude, Waka is my boy. And I get a little hate for that from some of the other fan community. I don't know how you feel about him, but he's my favorite character in 10.
He is the game's comedic relief.
Yeah.
And I treat him as such, but he is a ridiculous character. But I do love the fact that he attacks with a rubber ball.
Dude, and they nailed the perfect smack noise. Because if you ever played dodgeball growing up, you've heard that noise, and they just nail it.
And it's in there.
Yeah,
they seriously need to add that as a class in 14. It'd be so great.
It'd be big.
I ain't gonna lie, that would probably bring me back. I'm not gonna. And he got Lulu, so I mean, you gotta love that.
Exactly.
All right, so that's number one.
Can't hate on the man for getting the goth girl.
Right. So that's your number one.
So
number two.
So 10 goes number one for sure. After that, it gets into more muddier waters.
Right.
8's probably in there just because it was the first one I ever played.
For sure.
And I have a lot of love for that one. And Squall is like you said, his personality leaves a lot to be desired, but his character design is flawless. Absolutely. I've always wanted to cosplay as him.
Oh, yeah.
And then following that would probably be... I'm not going to count 14 because it's an MMO one, right. But 14 would definitely be up there. But if we're talking just regular single-player ones that most people have played,
right.
Probably 4. I loved 4 a lot.
It's a damn good one. 4 is excellent.
4 is a great game. And again, the redemption arc. There's a trend in my favorite Final Fantasies.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. And I mean, that's a trend in a lot of them. You know, even if it's not like the main characters, there's usually some kind of side characters that have that.
Right, somebody.
Right. For me, as I said earlier, not only my number one Final Fantasy, but my number one game of all time is Final Fantasy VI. It's I can play it indefinitely for the rest of my life and never be tired of it. Characters, there's no main character. Like, it starts off very much Terra in the beginning, but eventually everyone has equal time, and I think that's for a game with outside of the two secret characters, Go-Go and Umaru, every character has a pretty big arc to be played in the game, and I think that's for a 16-bit SNES game. That's mind-blowing back in the day for me.
As a 6 super fan, I heard an idea and I want to bounce it off of you and see if you agree.
Okay.
Somebody once said that the first half of 6 is about Terra and the last half of 6 is about Celis. Would you agree?
That's a very fair observation. Really, I think that leans more into the fact that those are kind of who you play first, and I can see why people think that. And it's not to say it's wrong at all, because in the World of Light, you play as Terra with her amnesia, meeting Locke, and it definitely focuses on her up until the reveal of her origin and where she kind of goes comatose. And then, like, in the World of Ruin, as we said earlier, how when Kefka destroyed the world and reshaped it to his image, the first person you get is Celeste, and she's the one who you first kind of pick up and is finding the party.
Rebuilding with.
Yeah, and you naturally, like, I know I do it almost every time, is I keep her in until I get my main party. You know, she's in there, so it's kind of, it turns into her narrative. But outside of by the time you get certain characters, it doesn't necessarily have to be about Celeste. And the same kind of goes with Terra in the first half. After you start
until you build your party.
Yeah, once you start building up a party, like, because every character has, at least for the most part, some actual reactions, and they all have they truly all have a unifying factor in fighting the Empire, which all have deep backstories involved in it and why they're joining the rebels. So, it's completely fair to say it's about Terra in the first half, Celeste in the second half, because those are kind of your viewpoints for each half. But I still argue that there really is no main character. But if you had to kind of nail them down, I would definitely say Terra, Celeste, and Locke are probably would be looked upon as the main.
I think I would agree.
Yeah, but that's that for 6. Again, we can make an entire show just talking about 6. At least I can. With just me, y'all aren't even necessary at this point.
Right.
Just speaking into the void.
All damn day, brother. But number again, like you, and again, outside of my number 1, just because how much I love part 6, the numbers of these can change from week to week. Number 2,
exactly.
I'm gonna say right now is part 4 because again, that was my first. But it's the one every time they re-release it, I play it, and I play it to completion. It's a simple game full of tropes and full, some issues, but it's a classic story, and classic isn't necessarily a bad thing. With Cecil's, pretty early redemption, I can say. He goes from the Dark Knight to the Paladin within the first quarter of the game.
Within pretty much the first act, yeah.
Yeah, and then hate to say it, he doesn't really get much more character depth outside of that, which is convoluted. But every other character, like Rydia, is actually my favorite character from 4 because I really enjoy her, even though I know she goes away. It's not a complex story, but from the child to growing up in the alternate dimension, which time sped up, and to seeing her growth, it was very, I don't know, it's always resonated with me. I've always liked her as a character. Number 3, and these two flip-flop, depend on what I'm feeling each day. It's actually the one I'm replaying right now when I'm not on World of Warcraft, is Final Fantasy IX.
I'm actually doing a playthrough on 9 on my stream channel right now for the first time. It's as far as games that I've never been before in the Final Fantasy series, it's 6, 9, and 12. So I'm working on those, but 9 has been great so far.
Holy shit, you have literally not beaten my favorite one from each generation.
Yep. A lot of people say that.
6 Super Nintendo, 9 PS1, 12 for PS2.
I've been every other Final Fantasy to date except those 3.
Well, you're...
Man, I will say on 9, after playing a little bit of 8 and everything, the character designs for 9 and the way that they've done like the animation and everything really intrigued me growing up, but I never got my hands on that game to be able to play it.
Yeah, some people didn't like it when it came out because when you go from 7, which had like the Lego Man kind of look to it, with certain cutscenes giving them full body, to 8, which had the most realistic proportions of a Final Fantasy at the time. They went full, human shapes, and 9 was a throwback to the Super Nintendo era. And so they super deformed the characters. They brought Yoshitaka Amano back for the art, and or at least the character designs. And then they of course had their own illustrator, which I think was the guy from 7, who did like the actual like renderings. So like, and people were thrown off by that, and it's more lighthearted until it gets darker later on. No, I'm not going to spoil too much as you're playing through it right now. But it starts off very lighthearted, very back to medieval, which I know Final Fantasy's always had like some steampunk and some science fiction elements into it. But like
that game takes it back to very much high fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I love 9, and I'm replaying it right now on my Switch as I'm watching. It's funny because Jerry gave me the heads up about what we'll probably be talking about today as we are. It doesn't take much to kick me back into Final Fantasy mode. And I got a YouTuber, which full disclosure, I'm aware of some of the controversy that happened with him. We're not going to get into that. A YouTuber though I still follow is Pro Jared, and he has playthroughs of 1 through 8 right now on his channel. And for just background, when I'm drawing or playing World of Warcraft, I've been rewatching his playthroughs, and I'm in a nice Final Fantasy bubble. I'm just loving it.
Right. It's always nice and content in the Final Fantasy bubble.
Right. Now, Jerry, you've played 14-8. Have you played enough to have a top 3? Or
Yeah, no, okay. I've got a top 3. I'm just going to rattle them off real quick. Right. You guys just tell me your thoughts, okay? You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start from the third one and go to number 1, okay?
Okay.
Phantasy Star Online, episode 1 and 2, Legend of Dragoon, and Dragon Quest Monsters. Yes. Those are, my top 3 Final Fantasy games, and they're the best. I think they're better than your lists.
I'm ashamed to have eaten in a Final Fantasy cafe with you, Jerry.
I was so expecting you to sing Kingdom Hearts, and instead I got something so much worse.
Hey, to be fair, it was a Square Enix cafe, and their main thing at the time was Dragon Quest. So,
no, I'm not talking about that one. You went to Artia, didn't you?
oh,
That was
what?
Final
No.
Fantasy. You went to Artia with us. Where we had the they had that room with all the the materia fountain and all the
Okay,
figures and
but that was
statues.
okay, but that was still Square Enix because they had hella Dragon Quest stuff in the main area.
No, there was a ton of Final Fantasy stuff. You're thinking of the Square Enix Cafe in Akihabara.
No, I'm talking about the place that was
Oh.
pill shaped.
I ignored it. I'm ignoring all the Dragon Quest stuff at that point. 'Cause I was
You're like,
I was
he's
actually
just like, I
mad.
deny your reality.
Don't come at me with your facts and truths. In my opinion. Yeah, I guess I did forget
I
about
don't
all
recall.
that. Because I know in the Square Enix Cafe in Akihabara, it was Dragon Quest because they had the new Monsters game coming out. Then in
Yeah.
Artia, because I was dying for my Final Fantasy Cafe that I thought we were getting there. Yeah, I guess I just remembered more of that. That was also when we were outside. That same night was when we were outside the Square Enix their office there in
Yeah.
Tokyo, which was so fucking
We took a very dark and grainy picture of you in front of the sign.
worth it. Worth it.
Jerry told me about that the other day, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, if I went to Japan, I would be going for more or less to like fangirl over anime and Final Fantasy stuff. And if
Yeah.
I went to the the Square Enix cafe and they had Dragon Quest stuff up, I would be so heartbroken.
Well, I have an appreciation for Dragon Quest, but yeah, it's not a franchise I've ever been able to stick with. But we still had fun, and I picked up a Toneberry phone. Like, what's it? When it goes into headphone, I don't know if you want to call it a keychain or not. But I got something Final Fantasy related in there, plus their bags at 30th, because that was the year of the 30th anniversary for Final Fantasy. So they had that,
Nice.
and then of course, like as we talk about collections, we can go ahead and get into this since we're talking about our Japan trip. One of my main goals in there, and I should have expanded even further, but I picked up because I had Final Fantasy 1 through let's say 3 years ago, so 1 through 15 by that point in the U.S. in the American versions. But when we got to Japan, I picked up 1 through 6 in Japan in their Super Famicom and Famicom versions.
Oh, you ever regret of not going all the way?
I should have gotten more. But there was so many other things. Like we had there was. I mean, I love Final Fantasy, and everything I bought was what I loved. I mean, but I have like tons of other interests too. So I picked up, Rama stuff. I picked up Super Sentai. I bought a lot of stuff. I have no.
You gotta save some for a second trip.
Yeah.
Gives you a reason to go back.
Yeah, and luckily my good buddy Brian, who was the only reason me and Jerry were able to go on that trip, went again, and I was like, man, I need the PlayStation stuff, and he managed to pick me up 7, 8, 9 Chronicles, which in Japan came with 4, 5, and 6 in one copy, instead of how they broke it up here in America with 4 and 5, or 5 and 6 and 4 in Chrono Trigger. In Japan, it was a 3-disc set of just 4, 5, and 6. So he got me that, as well as a Chocobo Mystery Dungeon for all those for the PS1. And if
Nice.
we were supposed to go this month, but with everything going on in the world, they ain't letting no one across them borders. So I wasn't able to go to Japan again yet. But the next time, I'm not just going to get the next PS2 one. I'm going to get as many of them as I can to get all that. So, but I've got I've got every mainline game up to PS1 in both versions, but I got American versions of every mainline game. Most spin-offs, like I know I don't have an American Chocobo Mystery Dungeon or Chocobo Racing. I'm missing a few things here and there, but I've got all the Game Boy, which are none of them are actually Final Fantasy, but they called them Final Fantasy here. Which they released Final Fantasy Adventure, which was the first Secret of Mana, and then Final Fantasy Legend 1 through 3, which is also the Saga Frontier franchise. But I've got all those on Game Boy, and just got all the Kingdom Hearts. However, some of y'all feel about that, I know how I feel about it. We could discuss that a little bit.
I have a shadow tattoo on my forearm.
Oh, nice!
This is the first tattoo I ever got.
Very cool. Now, I'll do it quickly. Kingdom Hearts, I own. I have the main 3. And maybe 1 or 2 of the spin-offs. I played most of them. At some points, I had to sell some of my collections. away, but I played most of it, and I still don't know what the fuck is going on in those games.
No.
But
you never understand. You just learn a little bit more each time.
And yeah, I played them all. I never beat 3 because by the time 3 came out, I gotta admit I just didn't care. I wanted to play it. I wasn't enjoying 3, but I still respect the franchise because Final Fantasy and Disney is my fucking childhood. So
It's a good thing you didn't play 3 because 3 had a severe lacking of Final Fantasy, which was very disappointing.
I noticed that pretty quickly, which, but don't get it wrong. Like, they did manage I mean, I care about Sora, Riku, and Kairi enough, and of course...
Yeah, they built their original characters real well.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's still... I get why people like it. I got one friend, Nick Cagle, shout out to him. He's a super fan, and I remember one year at Comic Conway, I was at my table. It was kind of slow when I wasn't getting a lot of people coming to get my art, and he's hanging out. He saw I was looking kind of bored, so I chatted up and I brought up Kingdom Hearts. And this good sir, I mentioned like the story's so hard to follow. He broke down the entire story to me.
Yep.
And it made sense. And then I immediately forgot everything he said.
Yep.
Because
they've got 2.5 hour YouTube videos where they'll go through the whole timeline step by step for you.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm sure. It's like I got another
Ain't
buddy.
Nobody got time for that.
Oh, I know. That's like my other buddy, Adrian Hill. Shout out to him. He can break down the entire Metal Gear Solid franchise story to me too, and that's equally as confusing with all the multiple solid snakes and liquid snakes and
liquid snakes.
No, there's a dude named Liquid
Gaseous snakes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I wasn't being silly.
Okay.
No, that is a thing. That's facts.
Is this fucking Kill Bill we're talking about? Or
dude. I mean, 5 Deadly Venoms ain't got nothing on these names, man.
Okay, I've got something.
Okay.
If you guys are interested, I have found, and then good or bad, I've tried to come through and kind of, make sure there's some good stuff on here. I have a 10-question quiz.
Oh,
did you try to do some prep work there?
For Final Fantasy.
This is not what we do.
I just did it while you guys were beating some Final Fantasy talk. I had plenty of time.
I'm sorry, Jerry. You knew what you were getting into with this episode.
Yeah, Jerry was like, "Hey, you want to come on the podcast? We're gonna do a Final Fantasy episode." I'm like, "So me and Sean are gonna talk about Final Fantasy for 2 hours, and you're gonna do nothing?"
Yeah. So this is my contribution to the podcast today.
Thank you, Jerry.
Since Jordan is our guest, here's how we're going to do it.
Okay.
I have 10 questions. I'll split them up, and I'll ask one person one, and then I'll move on to the second one, and each person will get 5.
Oh, we're gonna like tag team these?
No, you're not tag teaming them.
Oh, he's making
You're
a
going to
competition.
Yes, you're going to pick even or odd, and I'm going to roll a d20, and whatever it lands on, that person will go first. Since Jordan is our guest, Jordan, pick even or odd.
No, this is a very crucial moment because I have to assume that the first question is going to be the easiest, so I had to take that one to get ahead. But 10 is going to be the hardest, so I'm going to say odd.
Odd? Okay, let's see if you go first. Oh, 18 even. Sean goes first.
Ooh, and now all this hyperbole and bragging about my collection, I'm not going to know the damn answer. Let's do this.
Okay, Sean.
Sir.
Question number 1.
Right.
The first Final Fantasy game was released on the Nintendo Entertainment System in which year in Japan?
Japan.
Man, thank Christ I didn't get this.
Right? I told you. I knew it. And my copy's packed up. I can't even cheat. And I'm not opening Google, I assure you. You don't hear any clicky clackies.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm probably within a year off. 84.
Is it multiple choice?
They are multiple choice, but I'm not going to give you guys the
Fuck you, man. Fuck you, man. How close was I?
It was 1987.
7. Okay, way off. I thought it was earlier. I thought it was Japan. I thought it was earlier in the 80s. Okay, that's all right. That's okay.
It's a warm up.
That's okay.
Okay, Jordan. In Final Fantasy VII, what is the name of Barrett's eco-terrorist group?
Oh, really?
Oh, thank you.
Fuck you, Jerry.
I got the easy. It's easy mode up in here. What is Avalanche?
Okay. 1 point for Jordan.
Listen, it's like when you play Trivial Pursuit with your parents, and they're, all right, what color is a tree?
Right. Now we go back to my question, Sean.
Okay.
What tree branches were seen outside of the writer of Final Fantasy I's childhood home in Yokohama? No, sorry. All right, go ahead.
Sean. Question number 3.
I'm already mad.
Which recurring character was described by producer Hinobu Sakaguchi as the Yoda of the series?
Well, the only reoccurring character and I hope it's what he means, is Sid.
Ding, ding, ding.
Which we all remember Sid's Yoda-like words of wisdom. Now sit your asses down and drink your goddamn tea.
Yes, of course.
My favorite Sid, by the way.
Yeah. The rugged Sid.
The spousal abuseful Sid, but I don't know. I just love him. He's such an asshole astronaut. All right, I got one. Yay.
It's 1-1. The score is tied at this moment. Jordan has more questions at the moment, though. Sean has one wrong.
What's the bird that's seen in every Final Fantasy?
What does it say?
Moogles appear throughout the series in different forms, but what is their favorite food?
Kupo nut.
Got it.
Is that the answer? Are you sure?
Yeah. It's. All right, Sean.
Sir.
Question number 5.
Yeah.
What is the name of the card game featured in Final Fantasy VIII?
Ooh. He said he didn't do the cards.
I did not do the cards.
No.
Hold up.
I didn't play this game, but I played 14, so I know what it is.
I know. Well, no, it got 2 different names. In 9, it's called something different, which is what's in my head.
It is called something different in 9.
And I'm trying to erase that from my head, so I quit thinking of it. 8, Triple Triad.
You got it.
Yes. Oh. What's it
called in 9 again?
It's
called Triple Triad in 14.
It's now I erased it from my head. It's like Tetra something.
Tetra Master, right?
Yeah, I think Tetra Master. What's it called in 14?
Triple Triad.
It is Triple Triad? Yeah, no, like in 9, I believe it's called like Tetra something, Tetra Master or something like that.
Ugh, man.
I was hoping I could cement my lead with that one.
Yeah, you damn near did. I do the cards in 9 occasionally. I never did it in 8.
All right, here comes a 6, 9, or 12 related question right now.
Oh, man.
I can only hope.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, it is actually an easy, and he is gonna get it.
I hate
it does require me to give the multiple.
It's choice. Because I don't play 14 anymore, isn't it, Jared? This is why you're doing it on my own show, on my show.
It requires multiple choice.
This one does. It says which of these is not a character that appears in Final Fantasy X or X-2?
Oh yes.
No, I should have just said 10.
Real quick. What were your thoughts on 10-2? I liked it.
I've tried on so many times, Sean, to like that game.
Okay.
I really have, but I can't do it.
Oh, that's a shame. It's anime as fuck, and I love it.
But see, that's not my problem with it. It's like it's genuinely a hard Final Fantasy, and I can't get through it. It's not the story at all. Okay. I love weeb stuff.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Just curious, because you're right. It's definitely. I wouldn't even call it polarizing, because most people just don't like it.
Yeah,
but
most people
difficulty
just
is there.
Pass, but it's literally Final Fantasy 15. But if it was all girls instead of all boys, that's literally the concept of it.
Which would definitely fix 15. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly.
All right. Which of these is not a character that appears in Final Fantasy X or X-2? Tidus, Zidane, Riku, Lulu.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Really?
I know.
Man.
Listen, he picked his fate. Like, if he would have guessed right at the even odd, like
I would have missed the first question for sure.
Right. Whatever.
I'm gonna go with Zidane.
You got it.
And he just happens to be playing 9. Not that you wouldn't have known probably anyway if you hadn't played 9 with that one.
I would have been real close to getting the first question, but I wouldn't have gotten it right. I think I would have guessed 88.
Yeah. What now?
Okay, let's see. You know what? Since they did this thing, I'm gonna swap these next 2 questions just to make it a little harder on Jordan.
Ooh, a little spicy.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll accept.
Okay. Sean.
Sir.
Which of these was the setting for Final Fantasy 12? Was it Ivalice?
You probably don't have to. You probably don't have to multiple
Midgard, the Blue Planet.
So I know the answer, but I want to hear those options again.
It's was it Ivalice, Ishtar, Midgard, the Blue Planet?
Ivalice.
You got it.
Yeah.
What game is the Blue Planet?
Blue Planet. That would have to be 4. I would believe that's the only time. 4 or 5. That's the only time we ever jumped kind of like planets and stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
I could be wrong, but I want to say 4 because, like, from the moon. I think the moon people call it the Blue Planet. Not certain about that.
I knew where all those other ones were. What was the other? You said Midgar and Ivalice and Blue Planet. What was the other one?
Ishtar.
Ishtar.
Which threw me for a loop. I actually wasn't sure on that one.
Ishtar is Final Fantasy VIII, right? That's a city, though.
I'll take your word for
it. Jordan, Final Fantasy VI, which was originally released under what title in the West?
Really?
I very honestly might miss this, but you've already given me the answer in this podcast. You've said it.
I did.
I want to say it was Final Fantasy III.
Ooh, look at you! You got it.
Yep.
All right. I know that they changed the numbers, but I didn't know to which number they changed it.
The options.
Sorry.
The options were Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy V, Super Final Fantasy, or Chrono Trigger.
Ooh, Chrono Trigger, baby.
Yeah, for those who don't know, real quick, Japan felt because the console market wasn't big into RPGs, they honestly felt some of the Final Fantasies were too difficult for Western audiences. Hence why Final Fantasy I on Nintendo instruction manual was damn near a walkthrough through the first half of the game. So they released Part 1. They felt 2 and 3, and by Japanese numbers, were way too tough, with 2's leveling system and 3's class system. 4 went back to kind of the basics plus the first Super Nintendo one, so they released it over there with a much easier version of it. And then 5, again, class system, way too complicated for them Westerners. And then 6, and then by the time 6 came out, the internet was starting to bud everyone, and they decided we were ready for the rest.
They were like, you know what? They've been jumping through pipes and stomping on Goombas. They're not ready for this. Yeah. They're not ready for these classes.
So when they released them as Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3, even though it was 1, 4, and 6. But yeah.
Man, they didn't even try to make these last 2 questions spicy at all.
I never knew what the reason was, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Should we give Sean more points because he knows all that?
No. No, let's do this.
Okay.
I'm losing my dignity, Jerry.
2 questions left. Listen, if you would have got the first one right,
I would have shocked myself if I had.
No, you're
right. I would have given you the tie had you gotten that one right after seeing all these other questions.
Yeah. Sean.
Yes, sir.
What was the name of the principal villain in Final Fantasy IX?
Holy shit, I'm going blank.
Oh,
are you kidding me?
Oh, holy shit. Hold on.
Sean.
He's not my favorite, to be honest. He's not. As much as I love 9.
Well, he's nobody's favorite.
Yeah. Holy shit. I'm losing with no dignity on this one.
Oh, you can do it. You can do it. It's in there.
Oh, my God. And we're not talking about the mysterious ball of evil energy at the very end that was revealed to be the true villain like Final Fantasy loves to do.
It doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that's the case. I would assume no, judging on these other questions. They're not going deep.
Oh, my God. I'm so disappointed in myself right now.
Just go ahead and concede, and I'll answer the question for you. No problem.
Please do it. Yeah, I got to bow out. I'm not a Final Fantasy fan.
What?
Jordan, I'll be sending you my entire
Kuja.
collection to the real fan.
Kuja is the Final Fantasy IX principal villain.
Fuck's sake.
I mean, to be fair, he's playing through it right now, right?
But so am I.
Yeah, but I only know about. I haven't gone to where Kuja is the main villain yet. I only know about it because I played Dissidia.
Yeah. No, I have no excuse. I've beaten 9, and I know Kuja, and I completely.
And he's playing through 9 right now.
Well, granted, no, I'm only. We just got out the Petrified Forest.
Okay, so he hasn't made an appearance.
I haven't had a refresher yet, but there's still no excuse. I know Kuja. Fuck.
All right. Since Jordan took that one, I'll give Sean one more chance.
No, I lost.
No. Come on.
Done. I'm burning my collection.
You got to make it respectable. Just lose by 1 point.
I have a pyre going on right now that I'm throwing my collection into as we speak. I don't deserve this. My chocobo is frowning at me now, and it was stitched with a smile on his face.
On recording, you lost a Final Fantasy IX question to a person who hasn't beaten the game.
That's okay. I don't have to publish this episode.
This will go in the archives.
Yeah. He's just gonna go back and edit it to where he got all the questions right.
I now know the description of this episode. Sean's great shame.
Okay, Sean.
Kuja. Yes,
Sean.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Who was the main protagonist in Final Fantasy V?
Well, depending on your English translation, it's not. Some people will say it's butts, but it's actually Bart's.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got a last name with that?
Holy shit, no.
Ooh.
I do not know his last name. Oh.
It starts with a K. Is it Klutz, something like that?
Nope.
No.
Then I don't know. That's what I thought it was.
It's Bart's Klauser.
That's what. Is it a C?
No, K.
Oh, it is.
You had the K. You had the K right. Nope, Jordan, I bow to your luck of getting easier questions than me, and
I did it.
Your knowledge of Kuja.
I even answered some of yours.
Yeah, Kuja. I can't. I got nothing on that. I got no excuse for that. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have to go burn my copy of 9 now. It's gonna be really hard on the digital ones to burn them, but I'll figure out a way.
I honestly figured, Jerry, that would be a really hard quiz, and that idea was cemented when I heard the first question, and then all the other questions I knew the answer to.
I know, like the even questions were like the easiest.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have a rematch at some point. I'll find us a better quiz.
I'm down to embarrass myself anytime. Man, yeah. I am ashamed, but that was fun. That was a great idea, though, Jerry. I dug that.
Yeah, no problem. That was good.
I wanted to have a part in this podcast episode.
No, absolutely. Well, we still got a few minutes, and I mean, if y'all are good, we can go over our normal time because I can talk Final Fantasy all fucking day.
I got nothing going on.
I've got a question I'll pose to you guys.
Sure. Go ahead.
Cool.
What is your favorite Final Fantasy spinoff game?
Ooh.
And when I say spinoff, I mean like just not main series related. Like it could be a tactics or I guess.
So just not 1 through 15.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll
let Sean answer this one first.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to think of the spinoff because I'm a mainliner. As much as I own the others, it's the main series has always been my draw. Oh. Man, I'm trying to think out loud, so I'm not doing. Do you have yours, Jordan? Because you can absolutely go ahead, unless you're trying to think too.
I'm thinking. I'm trying to. Yeah. I have it between a few.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to lock it down.
All right. Well, I'll work through my process then. See, like in PS2 era, I wouldn't even hesitate to have said Kingdom Hearts, because 1 and 2 were a major part of my love, and I consider because 1 and 2 especially had a lot more Final Fantasy into it. Is it a
spin-off game though?
Like I take spin-off to mean like it's that Final Fantasy world. It's not the mainline series. I'm assuming that's
I figured.
Now, if you're talking like
spin-off was like it had to be Final Fantasy Untitled, but one of the other subtitled games.
Is that what you mean?
No, I figure spin-offs will any of the ones that aren't one of the main numbered ones. So you could go, Crystal Chronicles, Dirge of Cerberus.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, okay. Well,
otherwise, I would definitely pick Final Fantasy. So I consider that more of like a crossover.
But it still needs to have more. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, then, yeah. Well,
Crisis Core.
Right. Well, like Crisis Core, I enjoyed. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. Dirge of Cerberus, I did not dig, so definitely not going to be that one. Crap. Now I'm going blank on the name of the game because we had a lot of fun with it. The one we thought they advertised to be like a Monster Hunter type game, the one on 3DS.
Oh,
it was more Diablo-ish. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what
game was that
called?
It's like
that was like Crystal something, right?
Yeah.
Is it one of the Crystal Chronicle games?
Not Crystal Chronicle. I've actually never played the Crystal Chronicle game. I actually don't even own those either.
Yeah, it's really escaping me. It's like, was it like Crystal Warriors or something?
It's something to that extent. I'm trying. Well, I'm trying to think. I'm also trying to look that up now because it's bothering me.
Was it Crystal?
Yeah, I'll try to look it up. Hold on.
Crystal Defenders.
That sounds familiar. That sounds like it's at least a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fun though. It was like felt like real easy. I never really felt challenged in it, but we had a lot of fun playing together.
Was it Final Fantasy Explorers?
Explorers, that's the one.
Explorers, yes.
Yes.
And you got to like pick your jobs and everything in it. I think we got it because we were waiting on a Monster Hunter game to come out.
We were, and they mentioned like, slaying the monsters and crafting with their things. We're like, this sounds like Monster Hunter. It's really more Diablo. But with a Monster Hunter perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one is probably gonna have to say the top right now. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think of something later. But
you didn't want to get in on some Exidia?
Actually, I despise Dissidia.
Yeah, I know. They had that game in Japan and the arcade that we went to, and you're like,
yep.
Yeah, I got to play.
Such a good game in concept, but it's just not all there. And then it was really good on the PSP when there was 1v1, and then they made it 3v3 where you had to rely on other people, and I don't do that well.
Yeah, we actually got to play that one in Japan, but in the arcade, which had controllers like inverted motorcycle handles.
It was wild.
But I got to pick Kefka for my team and watch him skip around the battlefields throwing magic.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of beautiful to behold, but I can't stand Dissidia.
I was gonna ask earlier to test your Final Fantasy fandom. I was gonna ask you if you had beaten the story mode of Final Fantasy NT.
Oh no, fuck no. I actually still have to buy it for the collection. I have the PSP ones. I actually don't own NT. I need to get that just so I have. Again, like I said, I'm only missing a few spin-offs. But yeah,
no. I would give you my PS4 one for the sake of your collection, but I made the mistake of downloading it digitally.
That's all good. I appreciate the thought, regardless. Well, yeah. So I'm gonna go Explorers for my favorite little spin-off.
All right, Jordan.
So, as a resident love of rhythm games and just Final Fantasy music in general, I have to go with Beat Rhythm Final Fantasy, the best spin-off Final Fantasy.
Those are fun.
They're so good, and I love the music in Final Fantasy so much.
Oh, that's a damn good show. I own both of them. Theaterism, Final Fantasy. Yeah, isn't it like Theaterism and Theaterism Duodecimum or some weird.
Yeah, they have a second one. I never played the second one. I only played the first.
I own both.
But I played the hell out of that game.
Yeah, I got both of them. I think one is missing a case. I think the first one might be missing its case, or the second one is. But I own both of those. But I'm sad to say, because I would think you're average Final Fantasy fan, and I'm actually surprised you didn't say it either, Jordan. Although I don't really know your taste in games. I think most people's answer would be Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
I never played Tactics.
I'm not good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at most Tactics games. I even have the 12 Tactics spin-off on the DS.
That's the only one I ever played, and I wasn't good at it. I was like, I probably just won't play Tactics.
Yeah, I tried it on the what was it, the Game Boy SP or whatever, the little first flip one that they did, and I thought it was really cool, but I suck at turn-based fighting and tactics.
I own that as well. I own the
that's
first.
That's definitely the most popular one.
Yeah,
I think that's the most popular spinoff, and I do have that Game Boy Advance Tactics game as well. And again, I'm not good at it. But well, I was crap. I had something I was going to ask about.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
before I thought about Thief Rhythm, I was gonna say the original Crystal Chronicles, but my caveat with that is very specific. It has to be the original GameCube version, and you have to have 4 people with a Game Boy SP hooked up to the GameCube, and that's the only way I'll play that game.
Yeah.
If there's 3 people, I won't do it.
I heard the port wasn't great to the Switch, the remake of it.
The port wasn't great because they broke literally every multiplayer aspect of it. They made it so only the host made progress.
Right.
They made it so that you have to matchmake each time you go into a dungeon. You can't like party up. If there's a cutscene, it kicks people out. It's just the whole thing was not good.
Yeah, like it's one like I usually buy digital versions if it's only the thing available so I can play it. I'm not in a hurry for that one. I don't think we ever got a physical release here.
No, I don't think it did.
I think they did in Japan, which I'll probably import it just like because the only physical games I really buy anymore are the ones I collect for, and that's mainly Final Fantasy. So like, I'll probably get it that way, but I doubt I'll ever play it. I would love to actually get. I still have a working GameCube, although I only have one Game Boy SP, but I don't have that link cable. But like I would love to get the Game Boy game or the GameCube games as well.
It's fantastic if you have the people for it.
So I was going to ask you, since you're a fan of 8, and I think I've only met one other person, and she is an amazing cosplayer, who Nicole Velasco. Although she just got married, so that's not her last name anymore. But God forgive me, I can't remember her new married name. Cosplayed this character, and no. I'm getting mixed up. She cosplays Waka. Never mind. Which I do get shit for liking Waka. I know I'm rambling here, but I got part 8's Waka. Zell is my favorite character in 8. How do you feel about Zell?
I see. So you go for the boneheads?
Dude, no. You call it bonehead. I call it bros. Like that dude is down. that dude is down for hot dogs and Squall's mission. Like he is a bro with his face.
He is down for literally anything the group is ready to do.
And this man will run across the planet to punch a motherfucker in the face at full fucking force, like the Flash. Okay, he is a monk. He had the faux hawk before faux hawks were a thing. A chocobo face tattoo and jorts, and I love my jorts.
This dude took the Mike Tyson tattoo and he was like, "I'm just gonna run with it."
I think he had it before Tyson did. I think Tyson's copping off Zell. And like, well, the last time
Mike Tyson is a fan of JRPGs, confirmed.
Yes, confirmed. He can't play his own game, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but he's down for Final Fantasy. But the reason I brought it up, I was just wondering because 8 was like your favorite, and the reason I noticed the hate, and then I started seeing it more and more, was we went to A-Kon in Dallas one year, and we went to the trade place. Basically, like you can't buy anything. You have to a swap meet. You can only swap items. And this guy had a Zell figurine, and I was like, I want that. I want Zell. He's like, really? And he went on how Zell's terrible, and I'm like, oh, I still want him. He's like, you're okay. Let me see what you have. And I didn't have anything he really wanted, honestly. He's like, well, maybe someone else will want Zell. I'm like, fine. And I left, and then later on, apparently no one wanted that Zell, and he gave it to one of our friends who gave it to me. He was like, here, tell him he's the only one that likes Zell.
Nobody else wants Zell.
And I love my little figure of Zell. Like, how do you like Zell at all, or is he like he's not?
So I don't hate him, but out of the 6 characters, he's the one I use the least.
Oh, that hurts my soul.
even like up against like Sephi, who she's down there too. My end game party in that game is always Squall, but really only because you're forced to use him. You can't ever take him out.
Right.
And Quistis, because obviously. Blue Mage with the whip.
Yeah.
And then probably Irving, because I love the gun users in Final Fantasy.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie right now. If we were on camera, you could see it. I was shaking my head, going, "He better not say Irvine." Fuck Irvine. Fuck that dude. I hate him. I take Selfie over Irvine, even though they're a thing.
I don't pick him for his personality by any means. If he had any other weapon that wasn't a gun, he would not get rostered.
Yeah, I don't want to make ammo for that fucking cowboy dude. Fuck that dude.
I gotta make bullets for this dude.
Like, screw this. I did not use him. I only when you had to like split the parties up and you had to use everybody. That is.
And there was one party that had all your favorite characters in it, and then there was the one that's like, all right, and here's the others.
and here's Class B at Hero University. My end team was Squall, Quistis, and Selfie. Or not Selfie, sorry, Zell.
I always kept Renault out until she had Angel Wing. Then she always got slotted in. Because Angel Wing is ridiculous.
Angel Wing is good, but I didn't like. Honestly, like I'm not much of a utility player. It is really their personalities, and like I don't like this character because you're a dick, so you're not in my party. That's why I never played with Vincent in 7. He had no personality other than vengeance and grimdark.
Every party has to have an edgelord, and that party had 2.
You're not wrong. Like I did like his random limit break of or uncontrollable limit break. We return to the monsters, particularly the chainsaw wielding hockey mask guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for his appearance in the remake with his limit break. It'll be fun.
Oh, for sure.
So I have a question. They just announced Final Fantasy 16. What are your first thoughts on that?
I'm so excited it's going back to high fantasy. It needs it so bad.
I
feel like the whole genre of the sci-fi is getting a bit stale. Like I got kind of bored with it in 15. I'm really excited that they're doing a different route with it.
Totally agreed on that aspect of it. Yeah, the high fantasy element, it looks like it's taking place in 14 with single player and can't really say up to graphics because 14 is gorgeous, but it feels like that. I'm like super excited for that. I hope, because like the graphics look nice to me, they don't look next gen. I hope they're on PS4 because the only reason I'm not super excited about it is because I'm not super excited about getting another console.
Right.
Even though it'll probably be a PC release too, I'm gonna buy it physical. I have to play Final Fantasy physical if I have the option. It's just the collector in me because I'm getting every game. I'm gonna buy the game even if it's only for PS5, but I hope it's on PS4 so I can try it out. I'm not excited about it looking like it does play like 15. And not only was 15's story not interesting, the combat was very tedious and repetitious. I didn't enjoy it either.
It's hold B button / circle for win.
Yeah,
and get behind people.
Like I'll like what Jordan's doing. I will eventually go back and beat every Final Fantasy. I have to beat 13 trilogy because I hated 13.
And 13 was I refused to beat the trilogy, but getting through 13 is one of the highlights of my Final Fantasy journey. That game was rough to get through, and I knew it going in.
I imagine so. I made it to the 20-hour mark where everyone says the game gets better, and it didn't. So I haven't gone back since. And 15.
That's like, hey, once you get to 150, it gets way better.
What people gotta realize is that simply the game getting better does not make it good. Getting to that open area makes it better. It's still not a great game.
No, it's really not. So yeah, I'll eventually go through there. But I guess one last thing, 'cause I want to know what your thoughts were. You've beaten 12 and played it. What did you think of that game?
Who, me?
Yes, you, Jordan.
12's one of the few I haven't beaten.
Oh, you said 12 was 1-to-1s. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's 6, 6, 9, and 12. I've played through across from 6, 9, and 12. I've played the most of 12. I feel like I'm closest to beating that one. Right. But I really enjoy the story of that game. Jerry, if you haven't played 12, it's literally Final Fantasy meets Star Wars.
It really
verbatim. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's a Rebel Alliance against an Empire. I've heard that comparison. It's not super off, but then again, honestly, I've only beaten it one time. The story, there may be more similarities than what I'm not remembering. My experience with 12, I always love telling this story, and this is like, we're probably have to wrap it up here with this one. I got 12 when it came out. I got the PS2 hardcover case edition with the bonus DVD, limited because it's Final Fantasy. I got to get my Final Fantasy. And at this point, I really only were playing JRPGs, turn-based style JRPGs. So I get 12, and I get to the first combat area. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
12 plays exactly like an MMO.
It does, and I never played an MMO at this point. I tried it and I hated it. Van, I see it's Vaughn with 2 A because it has 2 A's. Was whinier than even Squall and prettier than T.
Another character that is terrible as the main protagonist, but every other character in his party is fantastic.
True. Balthazar and Fran for the win. And Penelo, I do like her.
Literally Han Solo and Chewbacca. But if Chewbacca was a hot bunny lady.
You're not wrong. But so, I get to the first few missions. I try to love it because I paid $80, whatever, for the collector edition. And nope, put it on the shelf. Fast forward to the 360, and I played Dragon Age Origins. And I love it.
The combat is very similar in that game.
Exactly.
Extremely so.
I played it, loved it, played it multiple times. Was on a video game thread, and someone brought up 12 and said, yeah, it plays like Dragon Age Origins. And it just if it was like a movie, like that quick zoom into my eyes growing huge.
You finally connected the dots.
And then I broke out my PS2 and played 12 and beat it and enjoyed it very much. So I was like, has there ever been any of the final... I told that story, so I can ask you this question, Jordan. Has there been a Final Fantasy that you didn't like at first and gone back and liked it a lot better?
There for sure is. I'm going to say this as my cop-out answer, and I'll probably have a better one after I start telling it, but... Right. I rushed through 15 and really didn't care for very much.
Right.
Once they updated the hell out of it and made it cohesive, I played through it again and it was really good. But I feel like a lot of people feel that way. Outside of that, despite loving... I want to make sure I have my answer down before I say it. Despite loving 4, I really didn't like it my first time through.
Yeah, I can understand that. For people who it definitely feels like a Super Nintendo game, no matter how much they've re-released it. It's very, like I said, by the numbers. I could see that if that's what the issue was, because it's very.
It was so predictable for me, and I didn't like it. And then going back and kind of I almost feel like going through a second time, I enjoyed it for its, like you said, for its classicness and its simplicity.
Right.
But going into it the first time, I was expecting this crazy story with all these layers, and I knew everything that was going to happen before it happened.
It's pretty predictable. But I'll tell you this, as a, cause I want to say that got released in 93, 94. So I was pretty early teen at that point when I first played it. And I actually watched my brother play it because I wasn't allowed to play it until he beat it, so I wouldn't get ahead of him. Because he had a life, and I didn't. So he knew he could have walked in and saw a spoiler. When Palom and Pora turned themselves into stone to block the wall, and I didn't know that every single death in 4 is just a fake out, that they're going to all come back, except for Tella.
Yep, the one that really went down.
Yeah, man, I was that was damn near a tears moment because I really liked the kid, and it was 2 young kids sacrificing their lives. That hit hard.
Just for this journey.
I never experienced that in a video game. But now I look at it now, it's even if I knew it, even if I didn't know it, if I played it now, it probably wouldn't be as impactful because we've had games where characters sacrifice themselves. But for me, that hit hard when I was a young kid.
That was another thing that really bugged me about 4. A lot through the story, you lose characters. Either they go missing or they die or whatever. And I would always lose my gear because they don't give it back to you when they die. They're gone. And the gear's gone.
I legit have it memorized where everyone leaves, and I know to unequip their gear.
I do now. And I'm like, all right, you're going in with just fists to this boss fight because after this, you're gone.
Oh, no.
Jerry, when did you cry in Final Fantasy 14?
In Final Fantasy 14?
Yeah, the only one you've ever played.
A real tearjerker.
The ending of Shadowbringers was pretty great. Oh. Not that it's the end, right. But the last scene that they did for the last boss that you fought was really great.
I won't spoiler that one since that one's still a recent game, but that one was a tearjerker.
Oh. Yeah. And that is the big thing with a lot of people, and it's a fair criticism of MMOs. Talk about they don't have really a story. As much as I've played every expansion of World of Warcraft, I know the lore, but I can't say I'm as invested as I was in as far as I got into Final Fantasy 14. It has a legit story, a good, compelling story.
And it builds as it goes. It just gets better each time. When Heavensward dropped, I was like, all right, this is crazy. This is nuts. It can't get better. Stormblood came out. I was like, it's even crazier. And then Shadowbringers was a complete masterpiece. If I wasn't gonna add 14 to my top list because it was an MMO, 14 would probably be like it'd probably beat out 10.
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, because I mean, it's hard. And it's hard to, it's kind of like you don't pick Final Fantasy 1, for example, as a favorite because it started everything. Usually, you want to credit that. And like MMOs, you don't want to really count them against a 60 to 80 hour game because MMOs are endless. Technically,
right? They don't stop. I think I have a couple hundred days of game time in Final Fantasy since it came out. Since 14 came out in like 2014, I think. But I'm thinking that counts my idle time because to be fair, I leave my computer on a lot.
Oh. Well, I'm not gonna lie. This conversation has been great, and I ain't gonna lie, y'all are kind of making me want to reactivate my Final Fantasy account. And I say that though, and what it always boils down to is between art, podcast, World of Warcraft, every job, life, wife, all that good stuff. It's like I start hitting like I'm paying was like the standard is like $14 a month, I think, for the basic.
Yeah, and you're not even doing it,
and I'm not using it, and it's like that's $14 I'm just wasting. So that's usually why I end up just not playing it anymore. But man, y'all make me want to play it again.
It's great.
Do we have time for one more?
I mean,
question?
yeah. I mean, we're
okay.
We can go long. Fuck it. We own the company.
I'm talking to the CEOs in here.
What is your favorite summon out of all the games?
Oh man, Jerry with the good questions.
Right, Jerry, man, doing it.
You guys,
Jerry, keep prepared.
You guys give me so much to think about whenever I'm just sitting.
I think you mean like we give you so much time to think about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jerry. I really wish you were a better person and played Final Fantasy more.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna play Dragon Quest just to spite both of you.
We'll play Part 8. It's the best Dragon Quest. It came with the demo of Part 12, which my boss actually just gifted me as a going away present as he's leaving for Hawaii. He's a big Final Fantasy guy, and I mentioned he's like, I'm playing 8, Dragon Quest 8. I was like, man, I need to get the original first run of that because it came with a demo of 12 for my collection. He's like, well, the next day he came here. I was like, shit.
There it is.
Yeah, I was like, well, hell yeah, thank you. And are you sure? But for me, like my gut answer is because it's also my favorite monster in all of Final Fantasy. I want to say, of course, it's Tomberry King, just because it's a Tomberry. Tomberry. I don't know. I call it Tomberry. But
I'm the same way. I was gonna throw out Giant Cactar.
Right.
As my son, but I feel like that's a cop-out answer, and so my back-out cop-out answer is Doom Train because
Doom Train's good
from Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah,
because Jerry, if you're unfamiliar, you have to build this summon. You have to get items to build him, and then once you use him, he hits the entire party or the entire enemy line with all status ailments.
Oh dang.
Yeah,
he's so unbelievably broken. If we're talking like main line though, I'd probably say Shiva.
Oh, that's actually what I was gonna say because like Tomberry King is only because I love Tomberry as my monster in general, but like just because of the attack, the designs over the years, it's Shiva. I mean, you're just I'm gonna say it, you're just summoning a sexy ice chick who just blasts the fuck out of everything.
And she's so stylish about it. Dude, every time.
I think 10's probably my favorite. Is that the one that kind of had the big braids and the finger snap?
Yep.
That is my favorite Shiva.
Because Final Fantasy X Shiva is pretty fantastic.
Because she's got the huge braided dreadlocks kind of look with her traditional kind of bikini wrap thing, which is all great, of course. But then freezes the battlefield and just gives and it shatters it. It's so smooth.
I always, whenever we fight her in 14 in Extreme, whenever she's about to freeze everyone, I'll always do an emote to do a cool pose when I get frozen.
Yeah, she group freezes the entire party before she does her signature snap to unfreeze them, but you can emote while she's doing the animation.
So you gotta do the Zorro and the candle wax. If I'm gonna be a statue, I'm gonna do a cool
You'll
pose.
just get frozen in dancing or clapping or something.
Oh, that's cool.
So my favorite, just off of appearance alone, because I haven't played a lot of Final Fantasy.
Right.
I think my first favorite was definitely Diablos.
Diablos is cool.
Yeah.
Did he first appear in 8?
8 was his first appearance, and you had to fight the motherfucker to get out of that lamp. And I did it early. I did it early.
He was
As soon
scary.
as he gives it to me, as soon as you get it from the
Yep.
principal, I fought
I
him
pop
immediately.
in.
Yeah, I fought him
Mhm.
immediately, and I always got my ass kicked for a while.
And then from 10, Yojimbo, because I mean,
Oh yeah.
God,
Oh, I forgot about Yojimbo.
Yeah,
How
it
could I
was-
forget about
Jimbo's cool.
Yojimbo?
I was very surprised you didn't mention Yojimbo.
I have an emote for my Twitch stream, and it's a picture of Yojimbo, and then on the bottom it says KO. I love Yojimbo.
Yeah,
I can't believe I didn't pick that.
Man,
I
but
know,
like,
I can't either.
legit though, 10 had some of. I think those were some of my favorite summon designs.
They were
And Anima.
Dude, Anima
Was great too.
Dude, Bahamut. I own the figure from 10. The giant
For
of him,
10?
Yeah, with the wings out, arms crossed, just look with the giant wheel in the back. Fucking
He looks
beast.
so cool.
I have that figure. I've got a ton of figures, but that one I do regret not keeping the box because he's a bitch to move. I'm always worried he's gonna break. But yeah, that's my favorite box. Like 10 has basically my favorite summon designs overall. Ifrit looks awesome. You know, like
Yeah.
the only one that's kind of weak is I don't like Yuna's first one. I forget what it's called.
Valefor?
Yeah.
Oh, Valefor's great.
It's the same as I'm gonna brutalize this name, Quizzicalte from 8. I just don't like. I think they're boring bird designs.
It's a total. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I prefer Rama for my electric summon.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. The last one that I really kind of like the concept of is Knights of the Round.
Ooh.
Never gotten it.
You talk about it's from Final Fantasy VII. It's the like 16-minute summon
Yeah.
animation.
Which everyone uses in the fight with Sephiroth, who also has a 16-minute animation for an attack as he blows up planets to hit you and you don't die from it.
Yep.
No, never got Knights of the Round because I've never enjoyed the chocobo breeding thing. That's the only way to get it. And I'm like,
Yep.
I'm not down for that. I'm not down on that one.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can also get him from killing one of the weapons, right? Because the weapons drop a master summon materia.
Oh, maybe. I've actually never
I
beaten.
think
never
you
beaten
get it
Ruby or
from
Emerald.
beating Ruby weapon,
I've
which
ne-
is the hardest one.
I've never beat either one of Ruby or Emerald. Which actually I need to check my copy of my Japanese 7. I wonder if it's the Japanese one or the American the re-release with those weapons in it, because those were exclusive to America at first.
Yeah, they were the international
Yeah,
version.
I gotta see which one I have. It's probably the standard one because it just looks like the plain white case with the logo, which they look so classy. If you haven't seen the Japanese boxes, they're so nice. It's just very simple but very nice on them. But gentlemen, we are hitting about the 1 hour and 30-minute mark, so I'm gonna call it because I'm sure our listeners are tired of Final Fantasy at this point. I'm sure Jerry is, although he's coming in with his reporter questions that I really appreciate.
You are welcome.
Dude, that was great. That was a lot of fun. But Jordan, thank you for coming on. Is there any?
Thanks so much for having.
Oh yeah. You mentioned a Twitch stream, man. Go ahead and pimp out your stuff, man. I'll put a link in the video to it. Yeah, whatever you want to advertise, pimp out. Have at it. Go ahead.
For sure, appreciate it. Yeah, I have a stream channel under twitch.tv/a portion for Jordan. I play a lot of JRPGs right now. I'm playing through
A
Valhalla.
portion for Jordan or a portion of Jordan?
A portion of Jordan.
There we go.
Did I mess it up?
You
messed
said
up your
four.
own name.
It's okay. It's fairly new.
Going fast.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
here on the Delinquents Yokai, we often get names wrong.
I recently rebranded.
Oh,
so you can catch me at a portion of Jordan.
All
I play a lot of JRPGs on there right now. I'm working through Final Fantasy IX, but as of this second, since I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan, we're playing through Valhalla.
Yes.
And that's all I've been doing nonstop. But after that, we're gonna do Grand Theft Auto 4 at my girlfriend's request.
Ooh.
So it's all over the place, but feel free to check it out. I'm not good at games, but I certainly love to pop jokes while I play them. So, and I'll hit you with the link, so you can throw it in the description if you want.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Well, that's going to do it for today. If you guys enjoyed what you heard, please like, comment, subscribe, and most of all, share the video. Tell your friends, tell your dog's babysitter, tell everyone you know about the Yokai Delinquents podcast and all the fun that we bring you. Again, we have guests on here, and we are still looking for recommendation of like topics and stuff. Like, we can talk all day, me and Jerry, but is there ever a subject you all want to hear, hit us up in the comments. But that's going to do it for now. So y'all take it easy.
Peace.
Later.